Hey y'all, it's Nicole at King Gap Creatives, and today we're going to be painting, I hope you can see this happy little snowman. This is the instruction sheet, just like the one that you would get if you were painting with me in person, or if you bought a kit to paint at home. So you'll always have an instruction sheet. When you paint with me in person, you also get a tracer. Normally, I did a class the other night that didn't have a tracer, but that is the exception to the rule. Usually, all of my classes start out with a tracer, but to start the happy little snowman, I'm first just going to paint the background blue and white, just a nice little wintry blue. I believe I am using a color called Desert Turquoise for this. However, I have ordered the paint for this for an upcoming party that I have, and the paint has not arrived yet, so I'm kind of just improvising. So I will share the actual supply list in the description, and the colors are going to be close, but they just may not be exact. But the first step is just to get this background really good. You don't have to take a lot of pains with it. It's supposed to be a little streaky. To me, the better, or the more streaky you just kind of slap it on, the better it is. And if you don't feel comfortable using the big brush to get around these edges, of course, you know, feel free to grab a smaller one. But I really do like this 1-inch flat brush just because you can cover a good bit of area in a little bit of time. And I will just say I am a little bit strapped for time today. I have a paint party tonight. I had one Sunday night, and I love it. That is great. It's just that I have changed my date that I send out my newsletter to Tuesday, and so I need to get that out, and I need to finish getting ready. So sometimes there's a time when painting quick is good, but for the most part, I like to be able to just take my time and paint at leisure, because that is really what it's about. I started painting as a way to just kind of decompress, and just as a stress relief kind of thing, because I do feel like painting and any kind of arts and crafts or anything that you enjoy is just very good for the soul. And you know, it's not something that I normally want to be in a rush about. It's just something that's good to be able to just take your time, but today that's just not happening. So this 1-inch flat brush is amazing if you do want to go quickly. It doesn't have to be perfect up against the edges. It's just paint. You can shape it up with your next colors or whatever, but you do want to leave some little streaks. And if you want to, you can also go around the edges of your canvas later. I'm not going to do it right now just because that takes a while, but you can either do it with a blend of these two colors that I'm using right now, or you can do a solid color, just the Desert Turquoise, or you can even really make it pop by painting the edge of your canvas just black. I've done that a couple of times lately with different projects, and I've really been impressed with how black can just really bring it together. I'm just adding in a couple of streaks now, just to places where it looks a little flat. This step is optional. I just kind of like the little streakies in it, so just adding those just really quick. So So now we're going to start on his hat. And instead of the traditional black top hat, we're going to go with a green. Again, I can't even remember the green that is on the original supply list. So we're just going to kind of mix up a green color until it looks like what we want. So I'm going to take this dark or Hauser dark green and just squirt a little bit of that on the plate. And I'm going to add I'm probably going to get more than that because it's going to take a lot. I use a lot of paint. And if I have extra, sometimes I just put it back in the bottle. And sometimes if I've mixed the color, I just put it in some little containers that I bought. But I'm just going to start with maybe about that much white. And just going to mix it in to that green just until it's kind of what I'm looking for. It is probably not going to be the same color as we had in the example picture, but that's actually okay. It doesn't have to be just exact. Like I said, I have ordered the paint to do this painting for the party because for when I'm doing it for somebody else, I do want it to be just like what they had requested. But just for my purposes today, I'm not real picky about the shade of green. And I think I'm kind of liking this that we've got right now. It is a lot different. The color in the picture is a little more yellowish. So I do think, hang on just a second, I'm going to see if I can find some yellow and add to this. And just maybe get it just a tad bit closer to the color in the picture. So I'm just going to add in some of this golden yellow and just see what happens. Sometimes you just have to play with it to see, you know, what kind of shade you're going to come out with. That may be a little too yellowish, but I don't know. I don't hate it. We may just go with that. That's almost even like a Grinchy green. You know, that Grinchy green. I have painted a couple of Grinch door hangers this season, and you know, it is more of like a yellowish color than just like straight up green. So yeah, I don't hate that. I think the color that I have ordered is probably going to look maybe a little better, but again, don't hate it. So we're just going to go ahead and start on the hat. I'm just using that same big 1-inch brush. And I may pick up the smaller one just to get in the little areas. But you can just stand it up on its tippy toes and go down the straight edge of the carrot nose right there and just kind of bring the edge of the brush to the corner there and just pull it through. And sometimes you can do more than you think with a larger brush and just kind of work it in right there and get in those smaller areas. And then for the curve, I think I can do the same thing, just kind of stand it up on its edge and just carefully follow that line. And I got off the line a little bit. That's okay. It's just paint. If it's not working, we can cover over it. I don't even think we're going to have to. But I may end up having to get my little brush just to kind of make myself feel a little bit better about getting in the small areas. So I'm not seeing the one I'm looking for. This one is kind of really small, it'll be okay. Just gonna go around that curve right there. And if you can do it with the larger brush, that's great. I'm just getting a little skittish about it right now. And I'm just going to use this one to be on the safe side. Because I do want the line of the hat to be pretty crisp. So I'm going to come around along there again and just kind of clean that up a little bit. And you can see the edge of the hat is just kind of almost off the edge of the canvas. That's how it's supposed to be. So it just makes it a little, I don't know, I guess topsy-turvy looking. It's just, this whole painting is just real whimsical, and those are the kind of paintings I really enjoy. I say all the time, you've probably heard me say this before if you have watched any of my videos or been to one of my paint events. This is not fine art, it's fun art. And that is not even an original quote. I have borrowed that from somebody, but it's true. It's not fine art, it's fun art. It's more about the experience than the finished product, even though I do want you to love your finished piece once it's done. But the good thing is, you know, most of the time you can have a piece you're gonna love without it having to be like fine art. And I'm just knocking things over, but that's what I do. So just come in there with that, and we're gonna shade this a little bit in a minute, with some white and some brown. I'm gonna need my little brush again though, I do believe, because I don't think my hand is especially steady today. Do you have days like that when you're not as steady as others? I don't know what that is about, but sometimes I have it and sometimes I don't. If I'm tired, it seems like my hand shakes a little bit more. And that's just part of it, and that's all right. We'll just do what we need to do with the little small brush and just go with it. Now, getting in this little place is a little tight. Just using the corner of that brush there. Just try to let the brush do the work for you as much as possible. If you tense up and try too hard, it just seems like sometimes it doesn't look as good. That's why you'll hear me say a lot of times, just slap it on there. And whereas you really can't just slap it in these little bitty places, you can still kind of loosen up and not be as meticulous as you might think, because sometimes the more meticulous with it you try to be, the less pleased you're going to be with the final outcome, or at least that's me. But I'm just covering over some of those smaller brush strokes with this and just kind of smoothing it out. That's personal preference. You would not necessarily have to do that. And I'm not sure, this hat may take multiple coats, but we're just going to let it dry a little bit and see what happens. And this little bobble I've had right here, if you can see this. Oh, let's see. Yeah, I'm just going to smooth that. So you can fix a lot of little things like that with just a little more paint. It's just paint. You can paint over it or whatever you need to do. So now I'm just going to start going around the rim, and I'm going to leave a little space, just a tiny little place right here to help me know where I need to shade the hat to kind of delineate the brim from the top of it. So just this little white area right here, I'm just leaving that on purpose, and I hope I can get back to it before my paint is completely dry, because that's going to make it easier to blend. And that thing of white just keeps falling and getting in my way, and I'm over it. And anyhow, so I'm just starting off with this little brush to just kind of give myself kind of a starting point to be able to blend in, to be able to kind of stay in the lines and then blend in what I need here in just a little bit. So the paint party that I did Sunday night, the one that I did with no tracer, that was actually the first one I have ever done with no tracer. And it also just happened to be the largest group that I have ever had for a party, which I'm just starting out. So, you know, maybe at some point I will have another party as big as that or even bigger, but as kind of a beginner, it was a little like I had to just kind of take some deep breaths and say a little prayer, and I even went and just kind of chilled in the bathroom for a minute just to get myself together, because, you know, it's hard to not doubt yourself when you're trying something for the first time. And just for a minute, my brain said, you can't do this. You can't teach this class. And I almost panicked. And then I thought, you know what? Everybody has to start somewhere. And you never know whether you could do something or not unless you try. And so I tried, and it actually went a whole lot better than I even thought. And that's not that I'm a great teacher or anything like that. It's just that sometimes you just have to loosen up and get in the groove. And I will say, we had a really good group. It was awesome. They were so kind and welcoming and did such a great job with their artwork too. But I was just worried for nothing. And so I just want to encourage you, don't be afraid to do new things. Don't be afraid to do hard things, because if you don't try, you're never ever going to know if you could have done it or not. So, that said, I'm about to do something that I do not know how it is going to work out. But we are going to try it. I'm going to take just a tiny bit of this raw sienna, and I'm going to put it down right next to my green. I may have to get like another plate or something. But what I want to do is, while the paint is still kind of wet, I want to just start pulling in some of this brown and just shading where the hat brim is supposed to start. And we'll use some white too, but I wanted to start with the brown and just kind of work it around like a shadow, just to shade just a bit. And I may have to get my little brush for that too. But you can tap it in the green and in the brown, and just work that all the way around that curve. And I went out of the lines just a little bit right there, but that is going to be not a big deal, and I'll show you why in just a minute. And I think I'm getting paint all over my arm. That is nothing new. I do that almost every single time. So, So, let's go ahead and do that same thing on the other side. Starting with the big brush. I hope you can see. I still think I'm terrible at getting things lined up the best in the frame, but here we go. We're just going to hit this curve again with the big brush. And I actually left some of that brown on there by mistake. But that's just all going to add to our shading. Sometimes when you're doing a project, you just kind of have to go with it and let it be what it decides to be. And I guess this one decided to just have a little bit of brown in there. I don't think you can really even tell though. But hopefully what it is going to do is give it a little bit more dimension there. And I'll admit that's something I struggle with. Shading is still pretty hard for me, and I don't want my paintings to look flat, but sometimes they do. But adding in a little touch of another color can really, really help with that. So just getting around the side of his face there. We've almost got the hat done. So I'm going to pick up my little brush in just a second and try to get to these smaller places. This is a painting that I'm doing in just a couple of weeks at somebody's house. And it's just going to be 4 people. But you know what? I don't mind doing small paint parties. I think it really gives you a good chance to get to know people and just really get to get into the techniques a little bit more. Go a little bit more in depth with some things. And I'm here for it. Plus, it just seems like, well, not just seems like, it's just fact. A small party is much less stressful than a big party. Like tonight, I'm doing one with 9 people, and that is going to be fun. 9 people is just a great, I think, number of painters to have. Although, the other night with 25, 26 painters was cool too. But it's just a different, atmosphere depending on the number of painters that you have. Now I'm going to go back up, even though this paint is fairly dry, and kind of highlight his hat a little bit. And again, we'll do some, look at that, I'm getting that paint all over me. We will go back also with a little bit of white too, so. Just kind of get that. And you can even go back in with some green and just kind of blend it until you like how it's looking. You may not like that first swipe, but then just add a little bit more and just blend till you're satisfied with it. Because that's really going to help with showing where the brim is and all that. Right now all I'm doing is just dipping green and dipping brown on the same brush and just kind of going back over and doing a little more blending. And then we'll start on his face or start on the carrot in a minute while that is drying. And then we'll come in, like I said, with a little bit of white. I think that'll really make it pop. And you could even bring, just a little bit of that brown down here to just give him some, sorry, I'm tongue-tied, to kind of define that brim just a bit more. Okay, so while that dries, let's go ahead, and I'm going to keep this smaller brush, and we will paint his carrot nose that he has turned up toward the winter sun. And I'm going to have to get another plate. Excuse this dirty one, but it's what's most handy. What a mess. But we're going to do that in the spiced pumpkin. It's a little more toned down orange color, but I kind of like it with that shade of green. And I apologize in advance for the noise, but I think I am gonna have to hit it just a second with the dryer, or I'm gonna end up with a mess. And when I say a mess, I'm not just talking about getting my hands in it or my arms. I mean that your paint can start getting real murky if you blend things together that you didn't mean to be, didn't mean for it to be blended. So I just wanted to dry around where the orange is going to be meeting the hat here, because I think that orange and green, if it was mixed together, was not going to be too cute. And we want this to be cute, so we're just going to get his nose painted in. I do like this spiced carrot. I think that is a pretty shade of orange, and if you get off the if you get out of the lines on this a little bit, just remember a carrot can be kind of bumpy, so it's all good. And if you get really messed up, remember baby wipes are your friend. You can wipe off acrylic paint with a baby wipe before it gets super dry. And if you do something that you don't like that will not come off with a baby wipe, you can always paint over it. It's just paint. You can paint over it, and it is not going to be a big deal. And a lot of times, little flaws that you see, by the time you've stepped away from it for a few minutes, you're not even going to be able to notice them anymore. So let's rinse that brush out. And now we're going to start on his face. And unfortunately, I believe I have left the color that I really wanted to use downstairs. But I think we can make do with this sand gray and a little bit of white. What I actually had wanted to use was a color called buttermilk. But I don't think this is going to be really bad at all once I have added a little bit of white to the sand gray. Just for his face. And you could paint this just bright white, but in the example picture, he's kind of a little more of a creamy color, if you can tell. And like I said, when you do a party with me, you always get an instruction sheet with a sample picture on it, so you can kind of refer to that. I'm a visual learner or visual person, and so it really helps me to have something that I can refer back to as I paint. And you know, you might be the same way. I don't know. We all have different learning styles. We all learn different, but I think especially with painting, you know, it's good to have something to reference. So I'm just going over his little face. And if you paint over, because I'm not trying to get away around every one of these little buttons on his mouth or his eyes, because we can freehand that. It is not going to be a problem, and it might even show through enough that you won't have to freehand. I'm not sure yet. We'll just have to see what's going on. I do think we're going to have to get around the edges of, like, between his face and the hat with a little more shading in a minute, but let's get this base color for his face going first. And again, this is sand gray with just a drop or two of white mixed in, and it is actually not covering so thickly that you can't see where to paint his eyes and mouth. So I am loving that. And if you'll notice, again, I'm not getting down on the edges of the canvas. You can do that. It is just a little bit time consuming. So for the purposes of the video, I'm not going to do that yet, but I will probably go back later and either paint the edges in the blue color that we started out with, the desert turquoise, or I might even go over it with black, because the black next to that desert turquoise is really pretty, and it just really makes it pop. But you're just kind of using some strokes going in the same direction for this part. And once it's dry, if you only use one coat, which is what I'm thinking, you should be able to see all the little circles for his mouth and the little semicircles for his eyes. So that part is going to be easy peasy. I'm actually thinking about doing those with a black Posca pen. You can do it with a small paintbrush if you want to, but I really like my Posca pens. They come in handy for so much, and I think this is one of those times when it's really going to come in handy. So just going to keep going around the curve here, just laying the brush on its side, letting the brush do the work for me, as they should. That part is really soothing to me. I enjoy seeing how it just kind of glides on right there. And that's it. I think one coat is going to get it. I don't actually mind the brush strokes at all in this painting. I think it only adds to it. But I have had a thought. Instead of going back and highlighting with the white, I'm going to try it with this mix of sand gray and white. I think I like that. So I'm just going to hit some little places, and it should not even be like what am I trying to say? Like a solid line. You're just kind of like hitting some strategic places to just give it some depth. Like right there in the corner of his hat, that's a good place. There and there. And I think That would have gotten it, but I just wanted a little bit more. You can add in a little more green there if you want. I'm going to actually go a little wider right here and just add in some. You can even like dip your brush a little bit and tap off some of that water and just kind of do a little blending thing right there. But dry brushing it is fine too. You just, whatever is feeling best to you, that's the move. So yeah, we've got that. Now I'm just going to come around his face a little bit. I need the brown again though, and the green. So I'm not even rinsing my brush. I'm just going right straight back in with the brown and the green and just kind of giving some highlights around his face. That paint around his face is not going to be dry yet. I think that's a good thing because that's going to help us effortlessly blend that. So just coming in that circle right there. And again, if it picks up a little bit of the color from his face, hey, that's all that much more better, because it's going to make it look a little blended a little more and shaded. This is a fun painting, I think. I guess this is the first though, I don't know, would you say, I guess the first secular painting, Christmas painting I've done this year, because I really do love the nativities and all as well. But this is a cute little snowman, and I'm looking forward to doing the party with him in a couple weeks. I think that's coming up on the 13th. This is the busy time of year for paint parties, although I will say it's a good thing to do during the cold winter months too, like January and February when it's cold and dreary outside. You can kind of perk up your world with some painting. So I'm going to try my best to come up with some really fun things for us to do after the new year. It's just been real busy right now, but hopefully I will have time to really sit down and come up with some good options to share with you so we can paint together come January. Okay, so I'm going to turn this upside down just so I can minimize the risk of getting my fingers in wet paint. And I'm going to paint this snow on the top of his head, just a bright white. Now for this, I'm not even putting the paint on a plate because we only need just a little bit, so a little dab will do you. And I'm just gonna get this little tiny brush and go into these places and just kind of cover up the tracer lines and make it a bright white for snow. And tracer lines are typically fairly easy to cover up, because a lot of times when I'm tracing them, sometimes I sublimate on canvas projects so I don't have to worry about stray marks. But like when I'm doing tracers for a door hanger party like what I'm having tonight, all that does have to be done by hand, and there's a good chance there will be stray marks, but you can just erase them or paint over them. Either one works. But I did want to dry this just a little bit and then go back over it with another coat of white. And I accidentally got my paint down in the grayish color. So I did rinse that, and now I'm just going to go back in and brighten this up just a little bit more because we want that bright white snow on his hat to show up. Y'all, I saw the cutest little patriotic snowman painting the other day that I think I would like to try. I just don't know when I'm going to have time, but maybe I can get to that. So if that is something you would be interested in, it's like 2 snow people holding an American flag up between them, and it is so cute. So if that's something you think you might like to do, let me know in the comments, and maybe I can get around to that sometime. You know, I started to say between now and Christmas, but really a snowman, that is fine for January, February, or as long as it's snowy wherever you live. Here in Alabama, it's hardly ever snowy, but I still like snowmen. So anyway, I'm just using this black Posca pen, and I think I'm pretty dry down here, so we're just going to go over where his eyes are. And then I'm going to drop down here and do the button mouth. And that's why I really like that I could see through that white and sand gray, because it just takes the guesswork out of spacing the buttons. So, you know, you could do, and I think I will. Let me see if I can find my brown. I'm going to do just a little bit of highlights on the carrot nose, and I think we're going to be just about finished. But for this, I'm just using just a pointy little liner brush, and we're just going to kind of go down here around the base of his nose a little bit. Just a little bit here on the side. It doesn't need to be a long unbroken line, just enough to show some, just enough to define it a little bit. There. And then I'm just gonna, you know how a carrot has the little, what would you call that, little ridges or whatever? I'm just gonna make a few of those on there. Just to kind of give it a little pop. And this little tiny brush here is perfect for this. I don't use these much because, like I said, I do like the big brushes for a whole lot of stuff, but for lining and just doing little details like this, they're really good for that. I said we were about finished, but I see a couple more things that I think would make it look even better. Do you do that? Like, I'll think I'm done, and then I'm like, but I want to do this. And that works out well to a point, but then there comes a time when you just have to say enough. Like, and sometimes I'm not good at that. Sometimes I have that too much gene, and I just keep going when it would have been better to just leave it alone. So what I'm going to do right here, and I hope I'm doing the right thing, I'm just going to very lightly line the edge of his face in black. You could also do that. I would not suggest doing it with a Posca marker as big as the one that I just used, but they do make some smaller paint pens. I think Artistro has some really good smaller tips, and Posca may have. I'm not sure, but just get on Amazon and look for like a small or a fine tip acrylic paint pen, and that's going to work for you too. But just if you're using the brush like I am, just kind of change up your pressure as you go. Like some places you can bear down a little bit harder, and some places lift up a little bit more, just to vary it. And if it's a little squiggly, that's okay. That is going to make it look good. That's part of giving your art piece character. And you know, where the lines may get a little messy along the edges, that's what you're going to be covering up if you want to, the edges of your canvas in black or that desert turquoise. So don't worry too much about that. You're probably not going to even be able to see it once your painting is hung up or whatever, but if it bothers you, that's where covering the edges of your canvas is going to come in. And I think on this one, it is going to bother me. I think I am going to have to do that. I was not planning to outline the carrot, but now I am. And again, I hope I'm making the right creative choice about that. Don't want to mess him up, but at the same time, I think a little black outline would make that pop. So, praying right now that I don't dip my hand, my wrist, my forearm, all the things in the still damp paint. But so far, so good, I think. So we're just going to hit that curve right there and bring it up. I didn't get that real good, so I'm just kind of filling in. I hope I'm still in the frame. And then just coming up. Just, again, just varying your pressure. You don't want it to be just all the same all the way around. And then I'm just going to turn my painting so that there's less chance that I do get my arm in wet paint. There. And just let me know what you think about the snowman in the comments, and if you would like to see some more like this. Probably after this week, my schedule is going to slow down just a tad bit. We're still going to be pretty busy until the week before Christmas, but I will slow down a little bit. I don't think I have any large events planned between really between now and the end of the year. The one I have tonight is less than 10 people, and I am not looking to do anything bigger than that between now and Christmas. But you got to think, Christmas is only we're almost there, y'all. It is only a few weeks away. And we've just had a lot going on in our family. I was not able to schedule really as many events as I had initially planned, just because of just some illness in the family and things going on. But I think that actually may have been a good thing for me as a beginner with teaching paint parties. I think otherwise it would have been really tempting for me to overload myself. And you know, it's important to me to give the people that come to my paint parties the best experience. And I feel like if I had stretched too thin, maybe I wouldn't have done that. So, y'all, I'm nearly out of white paint. But I do just want to add just a couple of, sorry about that gross noise, just a couple of white highlights. So, I'm just going to use this 1-inch brush and tap a lot of the paint off of it. And just kind of do some just big swooshes here and there just to kind of brighten him up a little bit. Just a little dry brushing up there. This is the first time I've painted this snowman too. But he's fun. This one, well, watch me drop it. No big deal. I'll just add in a little bit of white here and there and make it look like I meant to do that. Butterfingers. Okay, so again, I thought I was done, but I see something else I want to do. So let me grab this little bitty liner one more time. And I want to go up the little ridges on his carrot nose. What did I do with my black? There it is. I set things down and they're just gone. And they're right in front of me, but in my mind, they're gone. But anyway, so I'm just dipping that little liner brush in the black and just going back over these little lines of brown, because I don't know, they just weren't popping quite as hard as I wanted them to. And that's the thing, you do just have to let the painting kind of evolve as you go. And even if you are painting with me, whether it's in person or online, I want you to feel like you have the freedom to make it yours. You don't have to do exactly what I did. You may have a better idea than what I did. And that's okay. Go for it. You know, it needs to, we're all different. So why shouldn't our paintings be different? The other night, the big event that I had, there were 20-something people, 26, 28, maybe 25, I don't know. But everybody's was different. And you want that. You don't want it to be like cookie cutter. So anyway, there's our happy little snowman. Thank you for watching. This will be on my, well, I guess if you're watching this, you know that it's on my YouTube, but I'm also going to be sending it out in my newsletter. I appreciate y'all watching, and hopefully I'll be back next week to paint something else for you, and we'll see you next time.